Listen, I just had this patient, an incredibly handsome guy, said Mia, furiously flipping through the files. I should be dealing with paperwork instead, honestly. Her friend Linda looked at her questioningly. What happened? Normally, you couldn't stand these documents until you talked to the patients. I corrected her, Mia huffed. The locals, that's the real horror. When they sent us for practice, I somehow thought I'd meet some handsome guy here. Maybe not Brad Pitt, but someone better than Andrew from our group. But all I get are old men with hypertension and creaky knees. And why did I go to study to become a paramedic? It's just girls in our class. I should have gone to study economics. I'd have found myself a banker. But we have old men here every day, Linda remarked. I've already gotten used to them. But why are you so upset today? Did something happen? Mia shrugged in frustration. Same as always. He came in for a shot. Then he leaves looking like he's in shock, complaining about everything. The injections are wrong, the needle's at the wrong angle, I'm rude to him. In the end, he sat in the office for 15 minutes instead of 5. He drove me crazy. I thought I'd have to push him out by force. Linda patted her friend on the shoulder reassuringly. Come on, don't take it so personally. After all, he's a sick person. He didn't come to the clinic because everything's perfect in his life. It's wrong to expect a smile from him. Don't you think? And is it not wrong to drive me crazy? Mia snapped, irritated. However, she had already calmed down a bit and didn't seem so combative anymore. Mia was a girl who could get over things quickly and didn't hold grudges for long. After organizing the files into stacks, she went to the window and whistled. Now, that's definitely my patient. I wonder which department he came for. Linda also looked out the window. On the parking lot below, there was a huge motorcycle parked. Next to it stood a handsome brunette in a leather jacket with a metal chain hanging from his pants. A typical biker, just like in the pictures. Mia gazed at him with silent admiration. Probably to the surgery department, Linda suggested. Or maybe to orthopedics. Look how he's limping. Now that's a patient I can get behind. Mia got excited again as soon as the guy disappeared into the clinic. Not like our old men. After college, I'm definitely going to retrain as a surgeon. I think there's a much more interesting crowd there. Linda just waved her words away. She knew her friend was just talking. Surgery and Mia were incompatible. Mia couldn't stand the sight of blood, even though she was studying to be a paramedic. The very thought of picking up a scalpel made her feel nauseous. Although, for a cute guy, she was ready to do anything, perhaps even perform a medical feat. Linda had been studying with her friend for 2 years, but still hadn't fully figured her out. Mia was full of surprises and constantly amazed Linda. Let's go look for him, she winked at her friend with a bit of a spy-like expression. Maybe somewhere on the freshly cleaned hospital floor, I'll fall into his arms. Let's go, Linda mumbled, continuing to sort through the papers. Doctors at the hospital eagerly exploited the interns, giving them the most boring tasks. Time seemed to drag painfully slowly while doing them. Linda felt like her friend had been gone for an eternity, but in reality, Mia had been absent for only half an hour. She returned, angry, with another stack of papers in her hands. Can you imagine? They shoved this paperwork at me and told me to finish it by the end of the day, Mia complained to Linda. As if I'm some kind of paper machine. We'll sort it out together, Linda replied cheerfully. You know I'm not afraid of paperwork. Mia pouted. That's nice, but I still didn't find our handsome guy. Who knows where he's wandering now? Some Kimmy from the X-ray department will catch him, and you won't even remember his name. Kimmy's already retired, Linda laughed. She's old enough to be your handsome guy's grandma. So what? Mia retorted. I know these old people, they're always trying to push the young ones out of the way. They'll bury him in paperwork, lock him in some closet, and then they'll go off flirting. Isn't that how it always goes? Linda thought of the plump Kimmy, who weighed a ton and cared about nothing but sweets. She imagined how Kimmy would be flirting and burst out laughing. Mia always had such vivid fantasies that they could easily be turned into a comedy. The chief doctor peeked into the office, and the laughter immediately stopped. The girls quickly tried to look serious, as if it hadn't been them who had just been laughing like crazy. The man nodded and called Linda out of the room. Drop everything, your friend will handle it on her own. Go to surgery, there's a line down the whole hall. You'll be doing dressings. Can you handle it? Of course, Linda replied, though she was incredibly nervous. She had never done a dressing for real before, and the transition from theory to practice scared her. What about me? Mia asked. I'm tired of dealing with all these papers. Maybe I should go with Linda. We'll get it done faster together. Linda realized that her friend was probably thinking about the stranger they had seen from the window. It was very likely that this guy was now sitting in the waiting room, waiting for some caring hands. Mia simply couldn't allow him to be treated by anyone else. However, the chief doctor wasn't swayed by her pleading tone. You're on my blacklist now, he said sternly. Because of you, I've been spending the second day dealing with patient complaints. An hour ago, a patient came in and said you were giving bad injections. You can't even handle the little things. And when he was leaving the room, he overheard you calling him an old log behind his back. What kind of attitude is that? I won't tolerate rudeness in my hospital. You'd better remember this if you ever think about working here. Do you understand? Everything's hopeless, Mia muttered. In her mind, the girl was probably still insulting the grumpy patient with the worst words. He had ruined her whole morning. Linda gave her friend an encouraging smile and followed the doctor. He pointed to the staircase. 3rd floor. Hurry up, they're already waiting for you. With her heart racing, Linda walked toward the surgeon's office, passing rows of patients sitting along both walls. What a crowd! She couldn't imagine how she'd handle such a flow of people. Then she spotted the handsome guy, the owner of the motorcycle. Turns out her intuition hadn't failed her, the stranger indeed had some injury. The guy felt her gaze, looked up, and Linda immediately blushed and turned away. Mia must have been a hypnotist. After planting these distracting thoughts in her friend's head, Linda now couldn't think about anything but the guy's green eyes, framed by long lashes, instead of remembering all the dressing rules. He's just something, Linda thought. No girl could imagine someone like him. How could she even talk to such a person? Next to him, she felt so insignificant and simple. He won't even notice me, Linda told herself. So there's no point in worrying. I'll just treat him like any other patient. The nurse from the surgery room was glad to have helped and immediately dumped the easiest cases on Linda, the patients recovering from surgery. Wounds that even a beginner could handle. As she got to work, Linda quickly calmed down and forgot all about the stranger in the hallway. That is, until he entered the room. Good afternoon. He greeted her with a wide smile. Linda almost dropped the bandages. Hello, she stammered, still in shock, and found herself admiring his face once again. He was such a handsome guy. It was like he had stepped right off a magazine cover. For a moment, there was silence. Then the guy reported, "Austin Brown. You want me to undress?" Linda stammered, caught off guard, then quickly recovered and blushed. "Yes, of course, you can hang your clothes on the chair." To hide her embarrassment, she began rummaging through the files. There it was, with Austin's name on the cover. The girl flipped through the pages and opened the last one. Austin had a laceration on his leg, and the surgeon had stitched it up. Linda was so intrigued by the mysterious stranger that she couldn't help but ask, "Did you have an accident on your motorcycle?" The guy raised an eyebrow in surprise. "How did you know about the motorcycle?" Linda didn't even notice that he had switched to you all of a sudden. She wanted to disappear from sheer embarrassment. How could she have just blurted out that she'd been watching him from the window? There was no way out now, so she confessed. "I saw you arrive from the window. By accident." "Too bad," Austin muttered. "I thought I'd become a global star. Girls on the street recognize me." Linda looked at him. He was smiling. "What's your name?" he asked. "Linda," the girl replied, then hurriedly added, "but it doesn't matter. I'm just a nurse." "There's no such thing as ordinary people," Austin remarked as he sat down in the chair. "Remember that." Linda glanced at the thick bandage on his shin and sighed nervously. She'd already dressed several people before Austin, but she still hadn't gotten used to it. Her fingers trembled again. She must have looked like a bundle of nerves, because Austin asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Linda nervously smiled. "No. I mean, not exactly. I'm afraid it's not going to go well for you or the other patients, because today's my first day doing dressings. It's not the hardest thing, but I'm so nervous I might make a mistake." Austin raised an eyebrow in amusement. "So, I'm your first one?" "I'm flattered." Linda couldn't help herself and threw a package of bandages at him. "Stop it, I'm serious." The young people looked at each other and burst into laughter. Linda managed to forget her nervousness and shyness in front of this patient. She felt like Austin was someone like her classmate Andrew, whom she had known for ages. Talking to him was easy and natural. "Seriously, I'm not going to sue you. Unless I lose my leg," Austin reassured her. "But I hope it doesn't come to that." "I hope so too," Linda muttered. "Well, let's get started." She cut the bandages and quietly gasped when she saw the wound. "How did this happen?" Austin shrugged. "I could tell you I got into a crash while evading a chase and make myself sound like a tough guy. Or I could come up with some story about being involved in a stabbing. But the truth is much simpler. Well, my friends and I went to one of my buddy's cottages to celebrate his birthday. But we didn't consider that the house wasn't fully built. Grilling kebabs turned out to be life-threatening. A stray piece of rebar, and hello, sore leg. We didn't follow safety protocols, what can I say?" Linda shook her head. "At least did you celebrate?" "That depends on how you look at it. Judging by the fact that I ended up in this mess, not really," Austin replied with a smirk. The girl finished the dressing and smiled. "That's it. You can go now." "In such a hurry to get rid of me?" Austin raised an eyebrow. "Have I already annoyed you?" "It's not that," Linda shook her head. "It's just that there are about 10 more people waiting outside, and if I don't hurry, there'll be a scene." "I see," the guy nodded. "Competitors. All right, I get it. I can't monopolize the attention of a girl like you. See you tomorrow. I still have at least a week of playing mummy ahead of me." I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow, Linda replied. But I'll be happy to see you. I'll find you. The hospital's not that big, Austin saluted her. See you. The guy left, and Linda started tending to the wound of some old man. The girl was no longer worried and did everything mechanically, as if she had done this many times before. No one would have thought that she was a beginner at this. Linda was dressing the patient's wounds and smiling. Austin's words still echoed in her mind, a girl like you. It seemed there was indeed something special about her. When Mee found out that her friend had met Austin first, she nearly howled in frustration. What did you talk about? Is he as handsome up close as he is from a distance? Did you exchange phone numbers? She began bombarding Linda with questions. Linda willingly answered. She herself wanted to share what had happened. Mee felt a light sense of envy. Usually, all the attention went to her, but now this turn of events. It's all because of that nasty old man. She complained. If he hadn't tattled on me to the chief doctor, I could have been in your place. Linda wanted to comfort her friend, but didn't know what to say. Did she regret meeting Austin? Of course not. Would she have given her place to me? No, not at all. No matter how much she respected her friend, this guy had already charmed her. Linda felt as though she was in love for the first time. Of course, there were school years and youthful crushes. Back then, Linda considered her first love to be Chuck, the boy sitting next to her. He was just a regular village guy, but he seemed like the most amazing person in the world to her, athletic, cheerful, and so handsome that all the girls sighed over him. Unfortunately, Chuck saw Linda only as a friend. She would copy his math homework, and he would ask her for biology assignments. As a thank you, Chuck would give her chocolates on March 8th, and the wrappers, which she still kept in a box, were a reminder of an unrequited love. But Chuck had another crush, Nancy from the parallel class. Linda had to step aside. Later, she moved to the city, threw herself into her studies, and stopped thinking about romance. But the sudden encounter with Austin turned everything upside down. Not used to male attention, Linda simply melted from his compliments. The next day fate brought them together again. Linda spent the morning, her heart pounding, waiting for Austin's appearance. And here he was, with the same boyish smile. "Until what time were you working today?" he asked when she finished the dressing. "Until 5, she replied. "Why?" Austin shrugged. "I brought an extra helmet with me. I thought maybe I could give you a ride, if you want." 5 minutes after he left, Linda slipped out of the office under a plausible pretext and hurried to me, who was still serving her punishment in her little room. Her friend was sitting at the table, completely absorbed in paperwork. He asked me to go for a motorcycle ride, Linda breathed out as she stepped inside. Mee tore her gaze from the papers and gave her a frown. "And what did you say?" "I agreed," Linda replied shyly. "I can't believe I actually did it. I've never ridden a motorcycle before. It's so scary. How could I agree to that? How could you say no to such a handsome guy?" Mee answered her question with a question, a light smile on her face. Mee, as an experienced strategist, was giving her friend advice. If the prey swallowed the bait, don't forget to pull the line. Don't miss your chance. Linda's head was spinning from such words. Maybe she had finally gotten used to doing dressings, or maybe the new stress distracted her. In the evening, as the day of practice came to an end, Linda, with wobbly legs, approached the motorcycle. Up close, it looked like a real beast. "Ready?" Austin asked, handing her a helmet. Linda nodded uncertainly. The guy carefully placed the helmet on her head and smiled. Now you look like an astronaut. Imagine today is your first flight. Don't forget to shout "Let's go" when we start moving. Linda's mouth went dry. She was not capable of shouting, let alone saying anything coherent. However, all her fears vanished the moment the motorcycle started moving. The wild fear was replaced with euphoria. She felt as though she was about to soar into the sky. Probably, it was at that moment that the girl fell completely and irrevocably in love. Austin seemed mysterious and unattainable to her. Later, during their rides and conversations, his story unfolded before Linda, even more incredible than her own fantasies. My parents live in Paris, he said nonchalantly, as if talking about something ordinary. They have a business there. They invited me to come, but I didn't go. What's there to do in Europe? America is better. I'm probably a patriot. I believe that where you were born is where you're meant to be. Have you seen the Eiffel Tower? Linda asked, mesmerized, not taking her eyes off him. Austin smirked. Of course, I've seen it. It's tall. Yeah, it's normal. Want me to show you sometime? Yes. Linda blurted out without thinking, then, feeling embarrassed, added, but how? We'll buy plane tickets, he said carelessly. We'll be there the same day. Winked and added, we'll walk around the tower, check out the Louvre, and if you want, I'll introduce you to my parents. They're cool, don't worry. Austin seemed like a prince from a fairy tale to Linda. His life was strikingly different from hers. The guy had graduated from a prestigious university but didn't work anywhere. He claimed that he wanted to see life first and taste it. He had a spacious apartment in the city center, gifted by his parents, and spent his free time with his motorcycle and friends, as carefree as he was. Linda understood that her life couldn't even begin to compare. She didn't have wealthy parents. Actually, she didn't have parents at all. They had died many years ago, and Linda was raised by her grandmother. Her modest cottage in the village was the only home the girl knew. Paris seemed like something from another reality. Meanwhile, Mie was sulking. She felt that Linda had taken her place. After all, it was Mie who had noticed Austin first. It should have been her who started the hunt. But the chance was missed. Austin had already completely fallen for Linda, and Mie couldn't see any way to get his attention. To at least try to make up for it, Linda invited her to a party that Austin was hosting at his apartment. At the party, there were many guests, most of whom Linda didn't know, except for a few she had seen with Austin. Mie was curiously scanning the room. This is a cool apartment, and the view from the window is amazing, she remarked. Did you stay here overnight? Ever had breakfast on the balcony? Linda blushed. Mie, what are you saying? What's wrong with that? Her friend shrugged. It's fine. I'd definitely have a glass of champagne here. Champagne for breakfast? Linda laughed. You're something else. In this company, champagne can be drunk at any time of day, Mie said, not taking her eyes off Austin. But he, aside from a disinterested nod when they greeted each other, didn't react to Mie at all. Even her seductive smile, which usually worked without fail, went unnoticed. Mie was devastated. Hey! A voice called from behind her. She turned around. A handsome guy was standing there with a friendly smile. Are you Austin's friend? I haven't seen you here before. Austin's friend? Not at all. She nodded toward Linda. I'm more like a poor relative at this life's party. Why so sad? The guy asked, surprised. It's a party. Come dance, you'll forget all your problems. Me looked at the stranger more closely. His shirt was obviously from a well-known brand, and he looked attractive, though not as striking as Austin. But why waste time? She smiled. I was already thinking I'd die of boredom. This party is just a name. Bruce, the guy introduced himself. And I won't let you die of boredom. At least, not today. Now, we're going to show these turtles how it's done. I promise. Me spent the entire evening with Bruce. To her delight, the evening stopped being a waste. Even though she missed out on Austin, she found a new prey in the form of her admirer. 3 months passed. Austin kept his promise and took Linda to France. The girl was torn between two emotions, the excitement of the long-awaited trip and the fear of meeting Austin's parents. But everything went well. Paris greeted her with croissants, paintings by famous masters, and the hustle and bustle of the big city. Austin smiled as he watched her delight and confusion. When they reached the observation deck of the Eiffel Tower, Austin unexpectedly asked, "So, who do you want to marry, me or Paris?" Linda turned to him, her eyes wide open. Austin was holding a ring in his hand. "I'm starting to doubt that the answer will be in my favor," he added with a smirk. Linda couldn't hold back a smile and covered her face with her hands, not believing what was happening. "Make up your mind," Austin gently urged. "Or I'll change my mind." "Yes, of course," Linda exclaimed and happily threw herself into his arms. Later, they went to meet Austin's parents. They turned out to be serious, business-minded people. They looked Linda up and down with evaluating glances, almost as if probing her. They asked a bit about what she did, about her relatives. Linda answered all the questions honestly. She said she was about to graduate as a medical professional and talked about her grandmother who lived in the village. Austin's parents nodded approvingly. Years later, when Linda remembered this moment, she was amazed at how she hadn't realized it immediately. They didn't like her. No, it wasn't that. These people saw her as a simple country girl, exactly as she was. They figured her out and understood that she would be a suitable match for their son, if only because in the event of a divorce, she wouldn't have the smarts to fight over the assets. Some girl from their circle would have quickly manipulated the whole family for money. By blessing their son's marriage, Austin's parents were already preparing for a divorce. Business people, they had everything planned out for years to come. To your happy family life. Austin's father, Samuel, toasted, raising his glass. Try this wine. I assure you, you've never tasted anything like it. You just can't find this kind of wine in America. Linda smiled shyly. I've never actually had wine before, so I have nothing to compare it to. Austin's parents exchanged glances again. It seemed that Linda's absolute sobriety was another plus. A medical professional, modest, non-drinking, such a daughter-in-law was the one they could only dream of. But Linda's grandmother, Abigail, wasn't too pleased with her granddaughter's choice, though she didn't argue. If this is love, my dear, then so be it. Though, I wouldn't be in a rush if I were you. Would you reconsider? Linda asked, surprised. Grandma, but you married Grandpa just a month after you met him. And Austin and I have known each other longer. He's not one of our kind, Linda. Abigail shook her head. Not one of ours? The girl smiled. But I will be his. Grandma, don't be upset. I love him, you understand? Everything will be fine. God grant it, Abigail sighed. Maybe everything will turn out as it should. Be happy. The wedding was held at one of the largest restaurants in the city. Linda's grandmother didn't come. She hadn't left the village in many years, except for visits to the hospital. Besides, Abigail had been using crutches for a long time, so such trips were not easy for her. "I don't want to scare your guests," she joked when talking to Linda on the phone. "Celebrate without me." "What nonsense, Grandma," Linda said sadly. "You won't scare anyone. I'd love to have you there. But if it's too hard for you, I'll understand. After the wedding, we'll come to visit you, I promise." Austin's parents also couldn't come. Something urgent kept them away. The young couple received congratulations from them via video call. So it happened that the only guests at the wedding were Austin's friends and me from the bride's side. The celebration was lively, fun, and youthful. Afterward, a honeymoon in Italy. Another stack of photos. Linda was eager to capture every moment. Then their married life began, quite smooth at first because the young couple was happy. They lived in Austin's apartment, and she quickly transformed the bachelor pad into a cozy nest. "Does my husband like it? Is this really our apartment, or did I get the address wrong?" he joked. "It looks like a cleaning crew worked here." It was kissed by his wife. One very happy wife worked here. No cleaning crew needed. Linda graduated from college and wanted to start working, but Austin convinced her otherwise. "Let's at least live for ourselves for a couple of years," he said. "You know the saying, where there's a neck, there's a collar. So, don't rush. Your little change from the clinic will be enough for us." "I want to do something useful," she shrugged. "Am I not enough for you?" Austin smirked. "Look at how much useful you've already done. With you, I'm full. I live in a clean apartment, and I wear everything polished. And isn't one dependent enough for you? Do you need some old people?" "All right," she smiled. "You've convinced me. I'll stay with you for half a year, and then I'll work. I've gotten so lazy." However, things didn't go as the girl had planned. A few months later, she found out she was pregnant, and thoughts of work had to be put aside. "We're having a daughter," she told her husband after another ultrasound. "Unfortunately, your dream of having an Irwin won't come true, at least for now." "Why would I need some Irwin?" Austin objected. "Two is better than one. Do you want to name our daughter after me?" She was surprised. "Why not?" Shrugging, Austin said, "Or do you want me to name her Camilla, like my late grandmother?" They joked and, for a while, treated the pregnancy lightly. But then the blow came. The phone rang in their apartment in the middle of the night. Austin fumbled for the phone, muttering, "If Bruce wants to borrow money from me again, he'll get it, but he could have waited until morning." "Who's there?" A nervous mumble came from the receiver. Linda lay in the dim light and barely paid attention to him when her husband suddenly sat up and in a changed voice asked. Frightened by his tone, she opened her eyes and looked at her husband. His face froze in genuine shock. That night, Austin was informed of his parents' death. They were returning home after a vacation at a resort and got into an accident. Some semi-drunk driver crashed into them in his SUV. This double tragedy took Austin down. She hadn't even suspected how deeply he felt about his parents, or rather, she realized too late that he regretted not having spent time with them earlier. For many years, Austin had only been taking money from his parents and hardly showed any interest in their lives. Now, it was too late. Thoughts about it drove him crazy. "Do you see this sweater?" he asked, rummaging through the wardrobe. "My mother gave it to me. She brought it from some trip, from Singapore, I think. And I didn't even say thank you. I thought I'd still have time." Linda sympathetically patted her husband on the shoulder. from her own experience, she knew what it meant to lose parents. It had happened long ago, and the girl had survived that pain. But for Austin, everything was just beginning. He started drinking, first, expensive wine that his parents used to send him, and then he moved on to stronger alcohol. Linda tried to stop him, but it was in vain. "Leave me alone," Austin yelled in irritation when she tried to convince him to quit drinking. "I already feel sick, and now you're nagging me. Do you think drinking will make things better?" she asked him. This had been going on for 3 weeks. "It's time to pull yourself together and keep living. Why don't you take care of the company's affairs? You're the heir now, you should carry on the family business. It wouldn't be right for the business that Samuel dedicated his whole life to go to waste." "Alex will take care of it," Austin waved his hand. "Alex?" Linda asked. "Who's that?" "My father's assistant, his right-hand man. A real guy, I'll tell you," Austin gave her a thumbs up. "You'll be fine with him. All right, since he's your assistant, let him handle it. Though you're the boss, you could at least call him and discuss everything." But Austin didn't listen to her, he just poured himself another drink. Linda couldn't get her husband to quit drinking. At that time, Mia gave her some advice. "Leave him alone, maybe he'll calm down by himself. Or buy some new lingerie, I don't know, surprise him." "Mia, what's wrong with you?" Linda nervously smiled. "Lingerie? I'm about to give birth, and Austin is in a depression. What does he care about women right now?" Her husband's behavior was weighing on her. Her pregnancy was going smoothly, but after the tragedy with Austin's parents, her health started to deteriorate. She was hospitalized for bed rest, but even there, in the ward, she wasn't worried about herself, but about her husband. "I don't know how he's doing without me," she complained to her friend over the phone. "He's going to drink himself to death, or do something crazy. He's become so wild now." "Mia, can I ask you a favor?" she asked. "Of course," her friend confirmed. "Come by to check on Austin from time to time. I'm afraid he might do something stupid." It was becoming harder to communicate with him. Austin was tired of her concern, and whenever she tried to persuade him to stop drinking, he would just hang up. Then he completely stopped answering her calls. "Everything's fine with him," Mia assured her over the phone. "I stopped by yesterday, and your husband is drinking less now. There are no more bottles of alcohol." Still, the thought wouldn't leave Linda's mind. Austin hadn't contacted her for 3 days, and her patience finally broke. She packed her things and left the hospital. The entire journey was filled with thoughts about how to start a conversation with her husband, what words to use to convince him to start a new life, a fresh start. But when she arrived, all her carefully prepared speech flew out of her head. She caught the scent of perfume even on the landing. She smiled. So, my friend is keeping her word, looking after Austin. Her friend's shoes were in the hallway, fashionable, expensive. Mia had saved for 2 months to buy them and only wore them on special occasions. Linda peeked into the living room. No one was there. The kitchen was also empty, but from the bedroom, she heard laughter. Linda stepped inside and froze. Austin and Mia were lying in bed, kissing so passionately that they didn't notice her arrival. For a moment, Linda was speechless, and then she said, "So, this is how you're looking after my husband?" The lovers stared at her in shock, and Linda didn't wait for them to say anything. She ran out of the apartment. The first few minutes, she was in complete confusion, not knowing where to go. The thought of this double betrayal, both her husband and her friend, was impossible to process. She had trusted both of them so much, never once thinking they would deceive or betray her. Not knowing where to go, she couldn't bring herself to return to the apartment and face the traitors again. The only thing left was to go to her grandmother's, to her family home, the place that had always been ready to take her in. Abigail welcomed her without asking any questions, apparently having read everything on her granddaughter's face. She poured her some tea and stroked her head. "Everything will work out," she murmured kindly. "Family life, it's like that, it's never without troubles." Austin tried calling her, but she had turned off her phone. A week later, he showed up at their doorstep with a bouquet of roses and in a suit, as if he were going to propose. Linda stepped outside and stared at him for a long time. "I don't need flowers," she said quietly. "But these are roses," Austin muttered. "White, just like you like them." "I'm not in the mood for a celebration," Linda shrugged. "Take them back where you got them from, or give them to someone else. Don't think about Mia, she'll like them too. Let Abigail have them." Austin carefully placed the bouquet on the porch. "Don't throw them away," he said. They were silent for a moment. Then her husband spoke. "Forgive me, I don't even know how this happened. Maybe something hit me in the head, or I don't know what else. Mia showed up all made up, like she was going to the theater, and started pushing herself on me." Austin threw up his hands. Linda gave him a stern look. "I don't believe you. If you truly cared about me, you wouldn't have done this." Then, unexpectedly, Austin dropped to his knees in front of her. "I love you, darling. Forgive me. What do I need to do for you to believe me?" Linda couldn't hold back anymore. The deep sadness on her husband's face pierced her heart. "Let's go home," she sighed. "But from now on, forget about alcohol, do you hear me?" Their life went back to what it had been before the death of Austin's parents. Her husband even became more attentive, trying to fulfill every one of her wishes. There was no more alcohol in their house. They didn't speak of the pain they'd endured, it didn't make itself known. Linda didn't seek out communication with him either. Their friendship had ended when it was time for Linda to give birth. Austin drove her to the maternity hospital himself, causing a commotion as he called for the doctors. The birth was complicated, and the doctor, frowning, said they'd have to do a C-section. As she came to from the anesthesia, she had the strange feeling that something was wrong. "Of course, it's silly," she smiled at herself. "I gave birth, there's no baby inside me anymore." But what surprised Austin was something else, the fact that the chief doctor herself came to her ward. "May I see my daughter?" She immediately asked when they would bring the baby. The doctor avoided her gaze and didn't know how to begin the conversation. She seemed troubled, like something was wrong. "Unfortunately, the birth didn't go well," the doctor mumbled. "You're fine, but your daughter. We couldn't save her." The doctor kept throwing out technical terms, but Linda wasn't listening anymore. After gathering her strength, she asked, "Can I see her?" "But I already told you," the doctor was surprised. "Alive or dead, it doesn't matter," Linda interrupted him. The doctor sighed. "Why traumatize your psyche? Believe me, you don't need to do this." After being discharged, Austin drove her home. They drove in complete silence. When they arrived at the apartment, Linda froze in confusion. The crib, the baby clothes. What was all this for? It felt as if she had entered someone else's home. "We'll remove all this," Austin said coldly, even though his wife hadn't said a word. "I'll take everything to the trash tomorrow." Something changed between them, something cracked. Austin became silent, and when he spoke, it was only to ask for something, like food, or to point out a dirty sink. A few days after their discharge, he said, "I think we should get a divorce." At that moment, Linda was washing the dishes and dropped a cup. It shattered loudly. "Divorce?" she asked, holding her breath. "Just think about it," Austin said calmly. "Nothing is working out between us. I'm not interested in you anymore, since I'm interested in other women, and you couldn't even give birth properly. I think this is a sign that we need to part ways." "But you said you loved me," she whispered in confusion. "I did, but now I don't. I'm tired of it. Do you understand me?" He put the plate aside and left the apartment, slamming the door. In complete shock, she began to pack her things. After losing their daughter, this new loss didn't hurt her much. All that remained was numbness, indifference. She returned to the village, to her grandmother's house. She realized she had arrived at the right moment when she saw the ambulance at the familiar porch. Linda dropped her suitcase and ran toward the medics. "What's going on? What's wrong with my grandmother?" "Abigail?" asked the grim doctor. "What's wrong with her?" "It looks like a heart attack. We're taking her to the hospital. Would you like to come with us?" "Linda," whispered the neighbor, who was standing near the porch, "Abigail has been really bad lately, complaining about her heart. I came to visit today, and she was lying down. I immediately called an ambulance." Linda went to the hospital. Her worries about her husband and lost child were pushed aside by the new crisis. She was terrified of losing her grandmother. She prayed to every god she could think of, but the miracle didn't happen. Abigail passed away without regaining consciousness. Linda fell into apathy. She spent hours sitting by the window in the little house, staring out at the street. Her grandmother's things, scattered everywhere, filled her with an illusory hope that something would return. A cup on the edge of the sink, a warm scarf on the back of a chair, galoshes. Grandma had just gone out the door and would be back any minute, just went to the store for a moment. It was her neighbor, Aunt Sarah, who pulled Linda out of her stupor. "Stop sitting there like an old woman," she said one day, bursting into the room. "You're barely 20, and you're sitting by the window all day like a grandmother. Actually, what am I saying? Even old people are more active than you. Get up and get to work." "What work?" Surprised? "Well, clean the house, find a job. Did you know they're looking for a paramedic in the village? People need her, but here you are sitting." The girl felt ashamed and was forced to admit that the neighbor was right. This couldn't go on any longer. She found a job, and the daily work routine slightly lifted her mood, especially since there were really many people who needed her help, the elderly, mothers with children. One day, "Hello," said a tall, strong man with a child in his arms as he entered the office and smiled. "Can I come in?" "Zach," she breathed out, then blushed. "Or Chuck, what was it again?" The man was surprised. "What do you mean? What's this? It's been ages since I've seen you. What brings you to our village?" "Same as you," she stuck out her tongue. "I live and work here now, as you can see." "Is this your son?" "Yeah, he's a year and a half. We came for a checkup." "Why didn't your wife come?" she asked. "Usually, moms don't trust such things to anyone." Chuck sighed. "No, we're living here with just me and Louis." "Sorry." "All right, let's start the checkup." She smiled and grabbed the baby's finger. She had to restrain herself from staring at the baby instead of his father. Her first love. Chuck had changed so much. From an awkward teenager, he had become a real man. But she wondered if he still saw her as that freckled girl she once was. Chuck also looked at her thoughtfully, and as he was about to leave, he said, "Drop by sometime, we'll sit, have some tea, reminisce. It was better back then, you know." The sadness in his voice seemed very familiar to Linda. She felt the same way. "I'll come by," she nodded. A couple of days later, buying a cake at the store, she visited Chuck for tea. Louis was asleep in his crib. They quietly talked. "We got divorced from Nancy," Chuck said, staring thoughtfully out the window. "We seemed to love each other. We'd been together since school, went to university together, but then a rich guy came along. She wagged her tail and decided she didn't need me anymore." "Not Louis, you're lucky," she muttered. "You have a child, but I couldn't even give birth. I got divorced from my husband and ended up all alone." They looked at each other, two lonely people. They felt that their fates were similar. From that day on, their meetings became frequent. Chuck would come with her to the hospital, but that was rare. It wasn't easy for the chief engineer to get away from work. She would come to his house and help look after the baby while Chuck worked on some blueprints, and on his days off, he would fix her little crooked house. They didn't make grand confessions of love, everything was clear from the looks they exchanged. After 6 months, they decided to get married. Linda finally felt like she was in the right place. She had a loving husband, and Louis had become like her own. The meaning of life had returned. What more could she wish for? Years passed. Louis grew into a thoughtful and clever boy, bringing joy to his parents. He learned to read and count early. Soon, he would be starting school. One evening, Chuck said thoughtfully, "The chemistry teacher quit and moved to the city, and the art teacher has been gone for 6 months. No one knows when they'll find replacements." Linda looked at him questioningly, not understanding what her husband was hinting at. Chuck sighed. "The village is dying, people are leaving, the factories are on the brink. I think it's time for us to go. For Louis's sake, so he can get a good education." "Where to?" she asked him. "To the capital. I have an apartment left by my aunt there. You know, we could rent it out, but we could also live in it ourselves." "Yes, I know. The apartment is small, on the outskirts, but it's just for now. We'll get on our feet, warm up." Linda hesitated. She felt sad about leaving her native village, her grandmother's house. Chuck put his arm around her shoulders. "We'll come back here for vacations, we won't abandon this place. It's hard for me too, but we have to try for Louis's sake. And for us, what are we doing sitting here for years? We're still young." They made up their minds. Chuck sold their house, and they left the grandmother's house for now. The capital accepted them, if not with open arms, then fairly warmly. Chuck had solid work experience and quickly found a good job. Linda got a job at the hospital, and Louis went to school. And just when it seemed like life was starting anew, the past came knocking again. This happened when Linda went on another call. A 6-year-old girl with a high fever. According to her father, there were suspicions of a cold. There didn't seem to be anything unusual about it. But the door was opened by Austin. For a few moments, they stared at each other, and Linda could barely recognize her ex-husband. Not just because he had changed with age. Austin was poorly groomed, with a week's worth of stubble on his chin. His appearance was generally disheveled. And, to make matters worse, he was sitting in a wheelchair. "Hello," Linda mumbled. "How are you?" She wanted to ask how her ex-husband had ended up in such a condition, but stopped herself in time. It felt awkward to ask such a question. Austin remained silent, gripping the armrests of the chair tightly. Linda began to cautiously step back. I think I've got the wrong address, she said. The man did nothing to stop her. His face showed confusion and shock. Dad, this is the doctor. She's here to make me better. The little voice made Linda flinch. A thin little girl, about 6 years old, appeared behind Austin. She curiously looked at the guest. Is this your daughter? Linda whispered. The girl grabbed Austin's elbow. Dad, what's wrong with you? Linda couldn't take her eyes off the girl. The thin braids, the freckles on her nose, the sharp chin. She seemed to be looking at herself in a childhood photo. Mindy, Austin finally spoke, glancing at her. Lie down in bed, the floor is cold. The girl obediently went to the room. Linda spoke with an unexpectedly firm voice. I think we need to talk. First, help my daughter, Austin asked. You mean our daughter? Linda corrected him sharply. Austin didn't argue, just lowered his head. The girl was lying in bed, covered with a blanket. Linda touched her forehead and gasped. Hot. I'm cold, Mindy complained. Linda patted her head. You'll feel better soon, I promise. She took Mindy's temperature and shook her head. Almost 40 degrees. She probably caught it from her friend. Our neighbor, she's been sick for 2 days, Austin muttered. Linda gave him an angry look and took a syringe from her bag. I'm going to give you a shot now, and you'll fall asleep, Linda said to Mindy. And when you wake up, you'll be completely healthy. No shot, please, it hurts, Mindy begged. You won't feel any pain, Linda promised. I'm the best doctor in the world. You'll hardly feel it. Like a mosquito bite, quick, and that's it. As she gave her daughter the shot, Linda once again felt like an inexperienced intern. Her hands trembled. She had never tried so hard to do everything correctly. This little girl and her new patient were the most precious person in the world to her. Linda administered the shot, gently patted Mindy's head, and smiled. That's it, see? It didn't hurt at all. You're such a kind aunt, Doctor, Mindy mumbled. I wish my mom was like you. A lump formed in Linda's throat. She continued to stroke the girl's head until she fell asleep, then nodded toward her ex-husband. Let's go to the kitchen and talk. You're harsh, Austin smirked. I didn't notice that tone in you before. Yeah, and you were a completely different person too, Linda remarked. Well, let's talk about everything that happened between us over the years, Austin suggested. He brewed tea and began his story. Everything felt surreal, like some strange dream. Linda was sitting with her ex-husband, whom she had despised for years, drinking tea with him, and in the next room, her own daughter, whom she thought was dead, was sleeping. Could she have imagined such a thing even 2 hours ago? I lied to you, Austin confessed. I made a deal with the doctor to tell you all sorts of lies and paid him for it. I had a lot of money back then. Back then, Linda clarified. And now? Austin asked. I see you're not living too luxuriously. That was the plain truth. The wallpaper on the wall was hanging in tatters. The stool he was sitting on wobbled. The apartment had an air of poverty and despair. It was hard not to notice. Even harder to imagine that her daughter had grown up in such an environment. This isn't my apartment, Austin shook his head. Listen to everything I have to say, and you'll understand. He sighed and continued. I was angry at you for always telling me how to live, for forbidding me to drink when everything inside me was burning, for accusing me of cheating. But we both came up with it. She probably really wanted to marry me, so she agreed to everything, even replacing Mindy as her mother. I took our daughter from you, and we left. Your wife, I suppose, will be here soon. Is she coming? Linda asked, glancing at the clock. It's already late. She won't come, don't worry, Austin reassured her. We've been divorced for 4 years. She looked at him, surprised. But how? Mindy said she wanted a kind mother instead of, a wicked one? Austin smiled sadly. Mindy just wanted a mother. She doesn't know what that even means. She barely remembers Mia. I haven't had anyone else. We live together, just the two of us. And what happened to you? Linda asked, nodding toward his wheelchair. Motorcycle accident, Austin said, nodding. We were riding with the guys, and here I am in a chair. Mia ran away. She's the only one I've seen. And Alex, my friend, helped out. He stole everything we had and disappeared. He's probably somewhere on a beach in Miami now. And this apartment? Linda asked. My friend let us stay here. Mindy lived here for a while. She'll be back in a couple of weeks. And where will we go? Linda asked. I have no idea. Mindy will come with me, he said confidently. You really think I'd let you steal her from me again? Austin gave a sad smirk. Yeah, I won't be running anywhere now. Look at me. Maybe it's for the best that you found me. God must have led you here. My life's a mess, so let Mindy live. He paused for a moment and added, Sorry, I was a fool. I realized it too late. God will forgive, Linda sighed. Let's check on our daughter. Her temperature has gone down, he said. Linda would have left Austin, given the necessary medicine, and gone home to her husband and son, who were probably going crazy with worry over her. Who could have known how difficult it was for her to step across the threshold of that apartment, leaving her daughter behind? But she had promised herself she would return the next day to get her. For Mindy, the appearance of her mother was a true miracle. She couldn't believe it at first, hugging her and asking again and again, Are you really my mom? You won't leave me again? Really? Linda nodded. I won't leave you, never. What about Dad? He won't die, we'll help him, and he'll get better. To help Austin, Linda sold her house in the village. The ex-wife went through rehabilitation and, after a few months, got back on her feet. She visited them with a big cake, hugged Mindy warmly, and said, I'm going on a trip, but I promise I'll call. Be good and listen to your mom. Is she going? Mindy cried but nodded. She was holding both Austin's and Linda's hands, not wanting to let go of either of them. Austin went north for work. A friend offered him a good position and an office apartment, so he and Mindy were left together. Well, not really alone. After seeing Austin off to the train, they returned home. Louis rushed to Linda, hugging her, and then ran to Mindy's bedroom. A new episode of our favorite cartoon is starting. Let's go watch it. She smiled as she watched him go and then embraced Chuck. Finally, everything was in its place. They were all happy.